everyone, and welcome to Events Uncensored podcast with Bronson Hospitality. Today, we're going to be talking to Lauren with Archive Rentals. Lauren, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
If you just want to give us a little introduction about your position, how you got started with Archive, just so we can kind of learn a little bit about you and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Awesome. So Archive Rentals is about 10 years old now, and we started as like a vintage rental company and have since evolved into being mid-century, modern, vintage, of course, boho, all that kind of fun stuff. And I started, it's been 4 years now since I started, and I am a designer for the company. And basically what I do is work with clients to take their color palette, their theme they're kind of going for, and basically work with them to create their rental vision. And we do everything from weddings to corporate to parties and all sorts of fun stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you know that you wanted to get into the design world? Is this something that, are you a creative? Did you happen to learn about the rental company? Like, how did you kind of know that this position was something you want to get into?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people bounce around in the like creative event world, like when they
Absolutely.
like graduate. So I went to school for hospitality and event design, and then I kind of got into florals for a while in
Okay.
LA, and then did some work on the corporate planning side. And honestly, it always like the thing that always was exciting to me was when we got down to like the design and the color palettes, and like I love a good swatch book of
Yeah.
materials. So yeah, it kind of like just kept calling me like the design part of the industry.
Definitely.
And my husband and I were looking to make a change. And I just happened to I was searching like boutique rental companies, and Archive was hiring a remote position in LA. And I like interviewed, and it just worked out. And
Amazing.
we have like a really tight knit, like smaller company of all mostly women, which is really fun too. And we're women owned.
We love a woman powerhouse.
Yeah. So, and we all kind of have like our own spin on like, design. Like all of us have really different like visual, like, interests and like specialties. So yeah.
So how does a client get paired with one of the designers? Is that something that you guys kind of hear like what they're interested in, or is it just based on like leads that come in, or do you guys specialize designers based on specific clients?
That's a good question. So it's a combo of things. So a lot of the times it's like based on our relationships with existing planners, whether it's like social planners or corporate
Right.
planners, and then
People
of course
that you've worked in the past with.
exactly,
work
yeah.
well.
And then same with like venues we've worked with in the past, or like ones where we've gotten on preferred vendor lists for, and then on occasion too, it's just like you said, like, oh, this seems like a good fit for you, this lead. And then we kind of go from there. And personally, I have like a lot of different territories, like Palm Springs and like the desert area is like a big area for me.
Okay.
LA is definitely obviously a territory, but Orange County, we kind of go all over. So
Amazing.
yeah.
When you are going through your process, I have worked with Lauren. We actually have a wedding coming up this summer, which I'm really excited about. But she puts together these beautiful, different PDF files of design options for the client. So as you are kind of going through the process, I spoke to Lauren. We kind of gave her like a general color palette. And then since she knows their inventory really well, she took what we said that we were interested in applying to the event and like what our vision was, and then chose specific pieces that she thought would represent those styles and stuff. So if you are a client that is booking with Archive, make sure that you request one of those PDFs. It's super helpful. You actually get to see kind of how the lounge areas are going to be designed, which I find really helpful. And I think when you're using those too, like that's a tool that you can use to give to your florist or any of the other creatives too, so that they can kind of get a great visual representation of what the entire event's going to look like, which I think really, sets you guys apart to be able to provide that information and is super helpful to our clients.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the owner of Archive so we can kind of understand her personality and how she is working with the clients as well.
Yeah. So her name is Rochelle, and she came on not when we first started. It was a different ownership then, but maybe like 7 years ago. And she is like super fun. She actually is has really grown Archive because she comes from a sales background versus a design background. So when she came on, we actually promoted one of my awesome coworkers to creative director. So there was a balance of like sales and design like constantly flowing together.
You had the creative side and then the business
Exactly.
side too.
So she came in and like grew the business side of it. So she having that background, she's like always trying to see like where we can, you know, grow and where we can improve. And yeah, and it's really interesting because she's always coming from a more of a realistic standpoint of things and like what makes sense for our clients, like financially, like where should we be investing money in like new rentals, new designs. So yeah.
And tell me a little bit about, so if we have a client that's trying to stay within a specific budget, how do you guys try to cater to those budgets? Just choosing separate pieces, or knowing that, you know, you can maybe remove a rug from one of your design things, or maybe some of the lanterns can be removed. What is your thought process when you're approaching budget?
Yeah. So kind of back to what you were saying with our like PDF design board. So usually, you know, we get hired, like to your point of like being not just a rental company, but a design house. We get hired so we can assist with that process, obviously, and not just like the wedding planning side, but any planning side, like a lot goes into it. And the more we can take off of our clients' like shoulders, the better. So basically I usually like to like get kind of right to the point on budget, especially these days, because, you know, after everything that's happened, people are trying to like figure out where they want to spend their money with their events. And so we think that's really important to kind of just get right to that point, you know, to save everybody the headache. But what I like to do is, like you said, start with the color palette, start with, you know, like a Pinterest board if they have anything, or even just like 2 images, like super helpful, because some people's version of like a boho theme is different from what I would say.
Because not everyone has that creative background. So it's easy for us to kind of, you know, say this is what we're looking for and to apply it right away. But not all the clients have that background. So to have someone as a representative who knows the inventory super well, that has that creative background, it's just a really wonderful tool.
Yeah. And some people like basically that's like in terms of budget, I like to kind of get to like the core of what they're focused on. Cause some people, and like their audience too, like some people know they're going to have like a very mingly crowd. So they're like, we want to do a lot of money in the lounges. And some people like are obsessed with tabletops. So I kind of ask like, what's the most important thing? Like when you go to an event, like what are you focused on? And if it's one of those things, then I say, okay, let's a lot more of the budget there. And then, you know, sometimes, especially at like the Bronson venues, there's a lot of area to like create vignettes, and like a lot of decor elements can go into the spaces since they're blank canvases, which we love. So from there, I basically like to say, okay, like of this vignette, you know, are you obsessed with the couch and like the chairs, and you could forego X, Y, and Z other accessories. And so I kind of like to do an a la carte kind of a thing. Like this is like everything. If your wildest dreams could come true and there was no budget, this is what it looks like. And then let's scale back and like let's talk to the florist, you know, because sometimes they can have vases and accessories through them. And so I find that a lot of times like throwing all of it at clients at once is great, because then they can say, okay, like these are the things I really, really care about. And then I can kind of like a la carte items, and like as our budget moves around, we can add back into it. So
that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about like the day of process. So are you involved in that? Is it really just your team that does the drop off? What does day of look like?
So day of depends on the event. So in addition to like the PDF styling, you know, books that we can send our clients, we also offer styling services. So basically that would be like myself, or if it wasn't me, one of our archive designers being the right hand man of like, you know, the venue management team or the planner they've hired, and we kind of help execute like the install,
make sure that it's set up correctly.
So that's like a separate service that we offer. But a lot of times we see that, you know, clients have hired a planner that is basically going to be doing that anyway. So, you know, definitely always our team is like following a floor plan, installing everything like to that floor plan. And then in terms of like tabletop or like small decorative items, usually it comes down to catering or planning, unless they've hired us as a styling service.
Got it. Are there anything, or is there anything specific that's really helpful for you when you are creating these design boards? Like if they do have a PDF floor plan of the actual space. I'm sure that would be something that would be beneficial, just so you could see like their tables are going to go and how you could fill in those spaces.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because we kind of offer like everything. Like we can do a photo backdrop for you. We can do like lounges. We can do dining tables and chairs, bars. So if we can kind of have that ahead of time with knowing the guest count, it's nice to say like, oh, like instead of just doing all rectangular tables, let's do a mix of rounds and rectangular tables so we can have like a nice cohesive, but like interesting look, or
filling in the space.
Yeah. More, or like, oh, your reception area, like maybe you don't have like a dancing crowd. So maybe they like want to hang out and talk. Like, okay, this area would look really good with like these lounges and like flow like that. So.
And then you guys also do offer like plateware and that kind of stuff. So you really are all inclusive, one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Which I always think is so beneficial because when you're really able to streamline your vendors and utilize the services that they all offer instead of like having, 25 vendors coming in. And if you can really find rental companies that have it all on one order, it just makes the whole process so much easier.
Totally.
So I love that you guys offer everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Because it makes as a planner, our lives so much easier.
Yeah.
And your team is always so effective. You guys are always so timely. I absolutely adore the way that you guys work. All of your stuff for all of our venues, Vermont, Casita, and Lombardi, they have styles that really work well with all those spaces, whether it's more farmhouse or whether it's more modern. Like at Vermont, a lot of your more industrial modern stuff would look really good.
Yeah.
At Lombardi, we've done several events and there's several different, softer, more romantic couches and vignettes that work really well with that space. And at Casita, you have stuff that's more that industrial modern too. So there really is a really good representation of styles and options. So it's not just one, which is why we love working with these guys so much. Lauren, if you could tell us your website, your Instagram, your email, so people know where to find you guys.
Sure. So our website is just archiverentals.com, rentals plural. And then Instagram is at Archive Rentals. And we have our main warehouse is in California, and we service all of California, surrounding states, but we also have a Riviera Maya, Mexico branch. So
gosh, amazing.
That's really exciting. We do a lot of like New York, like destination weddings. We have a lot of New York or East Coast clients that go there, but on our page, you'll basically see a combination of events from California and surrounding areas, and then Mexico, but we have a lot of the same inventory, so you can kind of do both and be inspired by both kind of moody events in Mexico, and then obviously, like Reagan said, all the different themes we can do here. So
amazing. And if someone wants to book you guys, what is the best way to get in contact with you? Or do you have like a contact form on your website that they can fill out? What's the best way?
So the best way would be quickest would be to reach out to me directly. And my email is laurenk@archiverentals.com. And if for some reason you can't get a hold of me, you can always fill out a form on our website, info@archiverentals.com. And one of us fabulous designers will be in touch.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming out today.
For having me.
I am so happy. This is the first time she was able to see Vermont, so we were able to kind of do a duo, have a little tour, and then also this podcast. So we really appreciate you coming out. We can't wait for a really great year with you guys, and hopefully getting a lot more clients and working together more closely.
Yeah, and being creative. I love it. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Events Uncensored podcast, and we will see you next time.